My full name is James Robert Peter Jenkins, and I was born on June 10th, 1945. In terms of nicknames, don't really have any current nicknames, but when I was a kid, I was called Double J. I was called Jenks. But those were probably the things that I recall. But not really any nicknames that I can really share. I grew up in North Chicago, Illinois, and North Chicago is located about 35 to 40 miles north of Chicago. It is a city in and of itself. It is right proximate, right close to Great Lakes Naval Training Center. And I grew up there and went to school with kids whose families were or parents were in the Navy or in the military. And so as a practical matter, North Chicago Community High School served not only North Chicago, but also served students whose parents were stationed at Great Lakes Naval Training Center. And North Chicago is about halfway between Chicago and Milwaukee. So it would take you about 45 minutes to get to Chicago, 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. And it would take you about an hour to get to Milwaukee, heading further north. So North Chicago is right next to Waukegan. Waukegan is right next to Zion. And once you leave Zion, you are in Wisconsin. And so North Chicago is up very close to the Illinois-Wisconsin border.
Okay, great.
Well, I grew up in a large family, not so much by today's terms, but there were 9 kids, and my dad was a minister. In fact, the founder of the New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, and now located in Waukegan, but which was in North Chicago for a number of years. So there were 2 boys and 7 girls. And still today, we're blessed to have 3 girls and 2 boys still alive. Everyone else has gone on to glory before us. Our parents have gone on to glory as well. Very strict home. Dad a minister, mom community, very active in the community, but very strict environment to grow up in the sense that Dad was very focused on Christian living, and so it was a very strict environment. Not a lot of foolishness, okay? And church every Sunday, all day, from Sunday school all the way through Baptist training unit in the evening, and then Wednesday night services, choir rehearsal on Saturdays. So it was it was definitely a church oriented family.
So you talked about church a little bit. Can you describe what your church community was like? When you look at the faith community and other related activities in the church?
Well, we were all. Everybody in my family was given the opportunity to learn an instrument, and was given the opportunity to sing. Some of my first songs were Christian songs. In fact, I have a number of songs that I remember from childhood. The instrument that I learned how to play was the clarinet for a number of years. And I wanted to learn to play the sax, but I never learned enough about the clarinet such that I was able to graduate to the saxophone. But singing was something that I also did. And at a very early age, it was learned that I had a baritone to bass voice. And so even as I went to grade school, I was selected to sing at one of the teachers' conferences, and I sang a song that I was taught, which was quite different from the songs I learned in church. But the song that I was taught for purposes of entertaining the teachers' conference was a real low down basso am I. A real low down basso am I. All super low notes I defy. I care not the key, no basso there be, who can go down as low down as I. As a basso profundo I've scored to musical depths unexplored, from the top of the key to the depths of the sea. For a real low down basso am I. For a real low down basso am I. And then I did the only kind of bow that I knew how to do, which was to bend at the waist, and everybody laughed. I didn't understand, but everybody laughed. They got a big kick out of a little kid coming singing in a bass voice. So I've been singing in that voice all my life.
Yeah. Now, how old were you?
I must have been 6 or 7 when I sang. Yeah. But when you grow up in the church and you're singing and you're playing instruments, it's not unusual to sing before people or to be involved. Okay. And so that was something that I did. And then over the years, when I many years later, when I went to University of Michigan, I signed up and tried out for the Michigan Men's Glee Club, and became a member of the Michigan Men's Glee Club, singing in the second bass section, and did that for 2 years. So my freshman and sophomore year at Michigan, I was a member of the Michigan Men's Glee Club.
Wonderful. What are some of the songs you all sang, you sang at church growing up?
You name it, you name it. We would sing all kinds of wonderful songs.
Is there a favorite that you had?
Well, one of the first songs that I learned was He's My Light. And it went as follows. He's my light, that man of Calvary, and he's got his arms around me. I'm glad to know that his love's ever true. Oh, power and might are his possessions, and he'll forgive all my transgressions. He died for me, that no other would do. Oh yes, he's my light, he's my sight. Don't have to worry day or night. By his light, my path is bright all the way. He paid the price so that I could have eternal life and dwell with him forever, for he is my life.
You can tell you have a deep passion for singing.
Well,
And
music and the arts are extremely important. Frequently ignored by some in their educational development, but once it's discovered, it makes for a fuller appreciation of the life experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is that something you learned or was brought into your life by your parents?
Yes, yes. Dad and mom, and of course, mom was always singing in the kitchen. You know, when she was cooking, she would sing, and I, as a little boy, I remember, you know, hanging around the kitchen because I might get something to eat, but more importantly, listening to her sing. And she would sing wonderful songs. She sang songs that kept me going for many years throughout very difficult times. One of her favorite songs was "I Know the Lord Will Make a Way." Yes, he will. I know the Lord will make a way. Yes, he will. He will make a way for you, and he'll see you safely through. I know the Lord will make a way. Yes, he will. So as a practical matter, you know, I grew up in a household where mom was active in the community, dad was a pastor, and also working 2 and 3 jobs to make sure that he's supporting the family. You know, so religion was a very important part of our lives, and it was key. It was a key part, the anchor of our lives growing up.
Tell me some of your fondest memories growing up.
Fondest memories. Interesting. Well, you know, those were days when I was coming along, those were days when and I guess we, you know, to a certain extent, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Or, you know, as the years pass, we seem to find ourselves going back into patterns. But I remember my parents going down south. My dad from Arkansas, my mom from Mississippi. And when I was 12 years old, I remember my parents headed off to down south, and they left me with the car. And the reason why they left me with the car was because I had a job. I was working. And so my job was in Waukegan, and I would either have to walk there. It took me about a half an hour to walk there, or driving there, I could get there in maybe 10, 15 minutes. So they left the car for me, and I drove back and forth to work. And of course, the discipline was don't go anywhere else. This car is for going to work and coming back. You know, if you're going to go anywhere else, you have to take your bike. Okay. So, as a practical matter, I remember being entrusted with the car, with one of the cars because they drove the other one, being entrusted with one of the cars to go back and forth to work. So I remember that. And that was interesting. It was also interesting to be raised with the permission to work, with the expectation that that it was up to me. It was up to me to learn to take care of myself, to live responsibly, When I went to work, I was expected to keep to lock the doors, to keep them locked, to bring the car back and park it. And, I was responsible for the house at 12. And so that made me, I really appreciated being given that responsibility, and I carried it out to the best of my ability. So I remember that. I remember that, and that was important in the formation of my life. I had learned to 12. I had learned. My mom had taught me how to drive. When I was big for my age, and so it wasn't a matter of whether or not I would look like I was old enough. As someone once said, I looked old from the start. So I was a big kid, and so my mom had taught me how to drive, and it was not, it was fine. Everybody was okay with leaving me with the house and leaving me with a car to drive back and forth to work.
Wow. Where were you in the order of children?
I was I would be the eighth child. I was the eighth child, next to the youngest. I have a younger sister, and she is the last of the nine. And so I was the eighth child.
Great. Let me ask you to talk about your community. Describe your community growing up, your neighborhood, your interactions with your neighbors. What was that like?
Well, the neighborhood was quite interesting. As a small child, I grew up, our house was separate. Our house was one house and an alley separated our house from the school that I went to, from grades kindergarten through fifth grade, and well, through fourth grade. And so it was right in the block. And so the basketball court and the baseball diamond and all that were all very close to our house. And so I spent lots of time as a kid on the school grounds because it was so close to the house. As long as I was back by dark, it was fine. I could play on the school grounds as long as I wanted to. And I played a lot of basketball those days, hoping that I would continue to grow and that someday I might be able to play on a team. So I spent a lot of time on the basketball court, and of course, a lot of kids came from around and played baseball as well as basketball. Not so much football, but a little bit of soccer that we learned in school. So that was that part of it. The rest of the community, no, probably 2 blocks from where I grew up. We grew up on Commonwealth Street. Commonwealth Street, right in front of Commonwealth Street, was a train tracks, and so trains would pass the house as a small child. The next street over was Greenfield, and Greenfield, there was a church there that was First Baptist Church. First Baptist Church, roughly a block or two, well, basically across the railroad tracks from our house, was where T.J. Coles was pastor, and Reverend T.J. Coles. His son was Nat King Cole. And growing up in high school, I heard about growing up and appreciating music. I learned about Nat King Cole singing, and Nat King Cole had a brother whose name was Fats Cole, who had his own band. And Fats Cole had a wonderful band that went around and played in the community. But at any rate, as I grew older in high school, when Nat King Cole came home or whatever, he would bring his family and so his daughter was somebody who all the guys would go to First Baptist Church when they could to see her, and that was a musical family as well. And as a practical matter, one of the interesting things about the communities at that time was lots of people did things that were tied around music, that were tied around those kind of activities for the kids to participate in. So that was part of the neighborhood. Further west from our house, further beyond, were a number of other churches. There were, as is usual in the Black community, there are a number of churches, and people on Sundays and midweek and throughout the week, there is music that you can hear. And at that time, there was a lot of religious music as well as jazz and other kinds of music that were being played. But those are some of the memories of that time.
What's the name of the church your father led?
He founded the New Hope Missionary Baptist Church.
That's right. I wrote that down.
Yes.
And as you'll see me turn my head occasionally, I'm just taking some notes. It's out of habit. It's a thing I've done out of habit, taking notes. But you said New Hope Missionary
Baptist Church.
Okay. Is that building still standing?
Well, there have been several iterations of that. Actually, Dad started that church in Waukegan, Illinois, and then the church bought property in North Chicago and started a building there. But Urban Renewal came through North Chicago, and the church property was bought up. And so there was a period of time when we had church in our house, but then a building came available on Greenfield further north of our house, and north and west of our house. And that building was acquired, and New Hope Missionary Baptist Church met there for a number of years. And then now it is on South Buttrick Street in Waukegan, Illinois, a building that was purchased in the early 2000s, maybe 20 years ago. I'm sorry, maybe 20 years ago, 17 years ago, maybe, that building was purchased. And, but so it has moved around a little bit, but it's always been a mainstay in the community. New Hope Missionary Baptist Church.
Do you all ever visit? You or any of your siblings ever still visit?
Oh yes, I have two siblings. My oldest living sister is still singing in the choir, and the sister who grew up close to me, just 2 years older than me, is in the choir. They both are still in the choir, and my oldest sister is still handling the books and helping with the administration of the church. And so my sisters, those two sisters, have continued to as members of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church until today. Even now they are active in the choir.
Tell me about did you already tell me about, did you talk about school and your education growing up?
A little bit about that. When Urban Renewal came through, as I mentioned, the church ended up being acquired, the property ended up being acquired by Urban Renewal. Around that same time, the railroad track, in effect, became a boundary, so to speak. And whereas before I had gone to a school that was predominantly Black in our neighborhood, that building was repurposed and became, was repurposed. It was no longer a school, and a new school was built in the Black community. We ended up going, me and my sister, who's closest to me, just 2 years older, we ended up going to an all-white school, which was North School, which was further to the east of where we grew up, of the house where we grew up. And at North School, that turned out to be an interesting experience because I ended up playing basketball when I was in the 6th grade and the 7th grade. And when I was in the 7th grade, the team that that I played on was undefeated. We went 16-0. We played many bigger schools. We played throughout the tournaments, and we went 16-0. And there were a couple times where there was at least one game when I was written up as the one who scored the winning basket that kept us in the tournament that we ultimately won. So I played basketball at North School, then went to North Chicago Community High School. There I was vice president of the freshman class, and then president of the sophomore, junior, and senior class. Again, the high school consisted of children from the community, but also from Great Lakes Naval Training Center. And so I was class president my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And I graduated co-salutatorian. There were co-valedictorians and co-salutatorians. I was co-salutatorian of my class, and then went on to Michigan undergraduate school. So high school, I played basketball. I ran cross country. I played football for 1 year, my freshman year. But then cross country and basketball for 3 years, and then on to Michigan after graduation.
Wonderful. What were there particular subjects that you enjoyed? Well,
my best subjects were the science courses, particularly math. Math was my strong suit. In fact, when I look back, when I recall my scores, my SAT scores, my math score was the score that got me into Michigan. My verbal score was not as strong, but my math score was quite strong. So that's really what got me into Michigan. And so I was able and my first thoughts when I went to Michigan were that I would be, in fact, Michigan was selected because my brother, who's 6 years older, suggested that Michigan had a great med school. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go there and try to qualify to go to med school. As it turns out, I think I turned out to be better suited to go to law school. So I ended up qualifying to go to law school. And after spending some time in the military during the Vietnam War, I served in Vietnam. After 3 years in the military, I returned to law school. And while in the military, I applied for a commission and went through an interview process and was selected to become so by act of Congress, I was made a second lieutenant. And but then shortly thereafter, I ended up going to Vietnam. Now, my first training in the military was at the Defense Language Institute West Coast branch, Monterey, California, where I spent 37 weeks all day learning to speak Chinese Mandarin. So at that time, I was able to interpret, to listen and interpret Chinese communications. And when I went to Vietnam, this probably saved my life, because I was sent over to initially to be part of the advisory corps to the Vietnamese. But when I got to Vietnam, they saw that I could speak Mandarin and Mandarin Chinese, and they changed my orders in Vietnam, and I became an interrogation officer at the highest interrogation center in Vietnam, the Combined Military Interrogation Center in Saigon. So I ended up being based in Saigon, but traveling to all corps, as we call them, I Corps, 1 Corps, 2, 3, and 4, traveling to all 4 corps, taking teams to interrogate field grade officers and above. And I was selected to lead a team. The thought being that Chinese advisors might be captured, and if they were, then I could speak Chinese enough to interrogate them. Whereas everyone else on my team was trained to speak Mandarin, and many of the translators they were trained to speak Vietnamese, and many of the interpreters also helped some of the people on my team speak Vietnamese, so that we could interrogate field grade officers and above. But at any rate, after finishing my tour of duty in Vietnam, I came back and went to law school, and had an opportunity to work in a local law firm, and then in my after I graduated, I clerked for a appellate judge back in Waukegan, Illinois. Justice Glenn K. Seidenfeld. I clerked for him for a year. Then back to Michigan, where I worked for the Appellate Defender Office and argued appeals before the Michigan Court of Appeals, and my name is in several of the Michigan appellate recorded books because of cases that I argued and that we won. And after doing that for a while, I went to the Federal Defender Office and tried cases in Federal District Court in Detroit. And there again, I was able to win about 40% of my cases. So it's kind of hard to win the cases in federal court because it's you and, James R. Jenkins appearing on behalf of Willie Jones, the defendant. And so the other side is represented by the assistant U.S. attorneys, by the FBI, by alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and so there's a lot of legitimacy that's given to the prosecution side, but was able to win a fair number of cases at the Federal Defender Office, sufficiently that after I left the Federal Defender Office and moved to Midland to take a job at Dow Corning Corporation, I got a call one day, and the call was, would you like to work for one client? You can pick your office in Dearborn, Michigan, anywhere in Dearborn. You'll have one client. Your job is to keep that client out of jail and his people out of jail, but you can name your price. You can get whatever kind of car you want. You can pick your office and whatever. And my answer was, let me think about it for a minute. No, I don't want to work for any gangsters. Thank you very much. I have no intention of working for gangsters. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. So it was good. And so I came to Dow Corning. I was at Dow Corning for 5 years, working in litigation and labor arbitrations and mediations, and then was promoted up through the ranks and eventually became general counsel at Dow Corning. And then after spending a number of years at Dow Corning, I ended up going to John Deere and becoming senior vice president and general counsel there, and having retired from both places. So, that's kind of the story of my career.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Some of the traditions, some family traditions that you value and that you grew up with and that you value and that you passed down to your family or others in the community.
Well, one of the things that the Thanksgiving tradition that we have, that we've been that this activity is being done, in my mind, is based in part on the fact that Thanksgiving was always a time. I mean, first of all, sitting around the table in the evening for dinner was a family tradition. Thanksgiving in particular was an important time of the year. And what we have done now with our reunion of families and friends with Thanksgiving that we've been doing now since for many, many years. In fact, my wife Anita and I have talked about next year being at least year number 30 if we do it in 2025. But we've been doing this it started small. We did it at our other house for a while, and then when we built this house, we continued to do it. And initially, everyone would stay at our house, and then it got to the place where people were growing up and getting married and having friends and whatever. And we decided that we just didn't have enough room, even with sleeping bags and everything else all around. And so we started using the hotel. And as the hotel has moved through its various iterations, this is our 29th year with this particular tradition. And we believe that Thanksgiving is a time when you not only give thanks to God, but you also show appreciation to your family and your friends, and you count your blessings. And it's a time to rest, relax, enjoy each other, but also to just recognize the blessings that we have. Too often we spend a lot of time lamenting the things that are not going our way. And but it's very important to remember that that we've been blessed and that a number of things have gone our way. And a number of times when we didn't think we would make it through, we remember a song, I know the Lord will make a way. And we can sing that song or hum that song and keep on pushing. And God has, in fact, blessed us and brought us through. And so at least at Thanksgiving, we love to celebrate with family and friends. And it's a time for giving thanks to God, obviously, but which we should do daily. But it's also a time when we should express to our family and friends that we appreciate them and the support that they provide to us as well.
You mentioned a number of lessons you've learned from your parents, guidance from your parents. What are some of the things that you would say your parents instilled in you and your siblings? And what was most important to them?
Well, there's so many things that I could probably point to, but I will say that my mother taught us that, that it was important to evaluate people, not judging the book by its cover, but by the strength of their character and by what kind of people they were, and what kind of character and what kind of values they had. And so she was very active and very helpful to a number of people. So there would be people who'd come by when they needed $2, and mom would give them $2 so that they could get their medicine. And so that was very important. So mom instilled in us, work with people and react with people on the basis of what kind of character and what kind of people they are. And it's not necessarily a function of what you see. You have to get to know people's character and their values. Dad, I learned and instilled in all of us a strong sense of the importance of doing all that we can do to not only help ourselves, but to help others if we possibly can. To lift as we climb, but to recognize that it's up to us to do all that we can to be helpful to ourselves and to others. And while he was also preaching and a special education teacher and all that, he was also working jobs. Whatever jobs he needed to work in order to support the family. And so that it's very important to take care of your responsibilities and to recognize that in many respects, it's up to you. I mean, it's up to me. So I learned it's up to me to get things done. And it's up to me to learn about things, and it's up to me to learn how to evaluate things and how the economy works, how businesses work, how the legal profession works, how the medical profession works, and so to always be learning. And then to use what you learned, not only to help yourself, but to help other people. Recognizing that, the only people you can help are the people who want you to help them. Some people you can try to help and they have no interest in what you have to say. And so be respectful, and you can't, you don't control people, and you don't need to do that. But if you can help somebody, help them. But it's up to you to take care of yourself and to get things done. Yeah.
In that same kind of vein, talk about what family means to you.
What family means. Family are the people who recognize not only your strengths but your weaknesses and still find you acceptable. Okay. They are traveling some of the same paths with you, recognizing that their path is an individual path and that yours is an individual path. They're willing to share their insights with you if you're willing to share yours with them. They, in terms of humans, they provide as much unconditional love as you will experience in your life. The reality is God's love is unconditional, and the family and close friends that we are fortunate enough, blessed enough to have with us are folks who love us despite. Okay, they love us despite our faults. They look beyond our faults, as the song would say, and God looks beyond our faults and sees our needs. So do family and friends, and they try to reach out and help us sometimes despite our resistance and our defenses. They still care about us and are willing to go the extra mile to help us. And that's what I think of family. Family is very important. Now, over the years, I have learned my appreciation for family and friends has continued to grow because I've learned over the years what some of the barriers are that I put up, what some of the challenges that I put in place that kept me at a distance from people. And I've learned that it's very important in loving relationships to recognize that you're going to have to put yourself out there a little bit more, and you can't keep everything kind of close and tight to yourself if you really want to experience the love that others can bring. And the reality is, no matter how strong you are, no matter how capable you think you are, no matter how responsible, how accountable, and so forth, other people can always help you, and you need and will have a better life if you accept and appreciate their help.
Absolutely. You talked about family and the things that, the traditions and things that you value. How would you describe differences in what you see with families today, similarities or differences, related to when you grew up, or what your observations are today?
Well, that's an interesting question, because sometimes we can find ourselves making comparisons that are not helpful, and comparisons can become a trap. Competition can sometimes be a trap. I know we love sports, and you love to pick a team, and you want one team to win, and you want another team. You want your team to win, and you want the other team to lose, and so forth. And you always want to feel like you're doing all right versus someone else, but it can become inhibiting, and it can become destructive when you compete when you don't need to compete, and when you compare when you don't need to compare. The reality is, if you've got something that might be helpful, if you've got an insight that might be helpful, if you've got a thought or a discovery, it's not about how bright you are versus how unbright someone else may be. This is an opportunity for you to not only climb, but to lift as you climb. And the only way you can lift as you climb is if you can meet people where they are, not insult them, not, be respectful, but share some of the things that you've learned, not in a pejorative way, not in a way that is insulting, but in a way that can be accepted. And sometimes you almost have to do it in a way that allows them to share with you the conclusion that you're trying to get them to reach. Because we all have our pride, and sometimes our pride can get in the way. But by the same token, sometimes comparisons and competition creates tensions that are not helpful to family or to friends or to anyone who we are trying to help or who is trying to help us.
You in some ways address some of the things that probably fall into this next question a bit, and just so you may want to expand on it a little bit more. But tell me about lessons you have learned that you would share with others, or that you would share with your younger self. What are some words of wisdom?
Well, okay. One of the things that it took me far too long to learn is that it is how the financial system works in America. There's a reason why consumers contribute 2/3 to our economy in the USA, okay? And it took me too long to realize that it was important for me to learn how to get on the other side of a certain equation. And the equation is those who pay interest and those who get interest. And by that I mean, for too many years, I had a bunch of credit cards and ran them up to the max and made the minimum payments. And I paid little attention, the interest in having it now, so that I could I had something to show for my work, et cetera. And, getting it now and being able to get it, I was less focused on how the money was being dealt with and what the equation looked like and what the interest impact was. And I was more interested in how I looked and so forth. Once I learned that it's very important to make sure that your money works as hard, if not harder, for you than you work for your money, then I realized that I need to get on the other side of that equal sign, that equation. I need to get on the side where interest is being paid to me, where dividends are being paid to me, where rather than on the side where I'm always paying more because of the interest that's being charged to me. Well, once I figured out that there are ways to be on the side where the interest and dividends and growth is coming to me rather than my paying it, then I was able to put myself into the game in a different way. Letting my money grow and work as hard, or not work as hard as I do, or work harder than I work for me than otherwise. And the reality is, when you look at when you add up all the payments that you end up making, when you make minimum payment on something, when you're buying hamburgers on your credit card, and when you're buying coffee and other things on your credit card, and then you realize that that $5 cup of coffee, when you really do the math on it, costs you $20 over the long term because of the interest the incremental interest over time. You start saying, all right, I'm gonna figure this out, okay, so that I'm getting interest. So I'm gonna put at least a significant portion of my money, start with a small amount, but grow the amount that I'm gonna put on the side of earning for me, okay, earning growth and interest and dividends and so forth for me, as opposed to my always paying it out. And so one of the mathematical things that some people have never done is they'll get into a mortgage for a house because they want a house, they need a place to stay, but they never do the math. And if you do a 25-year mortgage and you do the math on what your payments will total over that 25-year period, you realize that you need to shorten that period as much as you possibly can. Yeah, I know your payments go up and you can get, but to the point where if you can pay cash now, pay cash, okay? But it might be a better idea to pay for it over 5 years or 10 years than to pay for it over 20 or 30. Why? Because the vast majority, a lot of that is interest that goes to someone else. And that's how how the banks can build these buildings and how these people can have these huge salaries. It's because of all the interest and growth that they are collecting. And so the other thing that's important about that is that you need to find ways to make the interest that you're getting compound for you, as opposed to compounding for someone else. And by that, I mean, the interest this year, if it's your growth, if you leave it in, that interest grows the next year. And so the earlier you can get in, this is also true for retirement savings and everything else. The earlier you can start putting your pot into growth, dividend, and interest-bearing matters, the more your interest actually grows itself, as well as the principal that you put in. Well, it took me a long time to figure that out. So it took me put it this way, took me too long to figure that out, okay? Particularly since, as I mentioned earlier, math is my strong suit. So do the math and figure this out, okay? And come up with a way, okay, that your money is working for you more so than you working to provide interest and growth to someone else all the time. Once I learned that, now that changed. That was a pivotal point in my financial life and financial management. And I wish it had come earlier, okay? If it had come earlier, who knows, but it came on time. It came on time, and I'm glad to have learned that. But a lot of times, it's easier to think, well, I want it, and I want it now, and this is the way I can get it, with my credit card, without thinking through, do the math and see, are you better off waiting until you have the money? Okay. Do you have any money growing somewhere for you? Or are you just using all the money you have and paying extra to somebody else? You've got to take some portion, okay? You got to start with something, some portion that you are growing, even if it's in something as simple as a CD, you've got to start getting some interest. Then you got to be willing to take some chances. Maybe maybe I'll buy some stock. Maybe I'll buy, maybe I'll do something a little more adventurous, And so you got to learn about that. And then as you learn how to be on the other side of that binary situation. And I say binary because somebody is paying interest and somebody is getting it. Okay.
Absolutely.
You got to find a way to be on the side that's getting it and not always paying it.
Absolutely. There's a question that I meant to ask you earlier. And after this question, there are only a couple additional questions. And that is, describe your family meals. If there were, when I talk about traditions or things around food, things around family meals or meals in the community. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, one of the interesting things about meals, sitting around the table and talking about your day and talking about what's going on and listening to what's going on with others in the family, that's really important. And the reality is taking meals together, having meals together has always been a way that people enjoy each other's company. In the churches, selling dinners have always been, barbecue dinners, chicken dinners, good food, cakes, bake sales, and whatever. Food has always been, because it is essential and it is necessary for the energy that we need in order to go forward and so forth. It is an opportunity to discuss and get to know people and to learn things. And so growing up, you eat with the family when the family eats, okay? And, and you eat, what's on your plate, okay? And you don't get more until you have finished what's on your plate and that kind of thing. And those are things that are helpful when you're thinking about how to help younger people come along. But the selling of churches, selling fundraisers, selling of meals, and even to a certain extent, the nonprofits, even today, that put on these functions. Typically, you have dinners, you buy tickets, and there might be a speaker and some entertainment or whatever. But meals always or frequently are a part of those festivities. I think the key thing to keep in mind, and that I've learned over the years, is that it's important to not only be concerned about nutrition and what's healthy and what's not, but also, what tastes good and what does not. And, you don't have to eat everything. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. And, but it's important for you to recognize what you need and what gives you energy and what helps you be as healthy as you want to be. But growing up, it was a time when we sat together, we talked together, we shared what our experiences were, and it was a time to learn from each other and to share our thoughts and perspectives of what was going on.
Were there favorite meals that did your mother do most of the cooking? Did your father participate in cooking? Were there particular dishes or meals that you remember and maybe that you all have brought through the family till today?
Well, there are certain things that are just good. Grains are really good, and chicken and dumplings are really good, and Catfish is really good. And, there are things that you remember, and that whenever you have an opportunity to have those things, you have them. And there are certain meats and certain vegetables that go with the respective holidays, just like turkey typically goes, with Thanksgiving. Hams of certain types with Christmas and so forth. The eggs and the chocolate and so forth at Easter. And there are a number of things that were practiced, and that you find that you want to carry forward as much as possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. What, when you think about your legacy or what you'd like to be remembered for, what comes to your mind?
That's probably one of the toughest questions that for me to answer. I do want to live a life where I have been responsible, where I've been accountable, and where I have helped as many people as I can. And so I'm very interested in doing that. Whether I'm remembered for anything, perhaps it would be being generous enough to shock you. And the reality is, none of this stuff will we take with us. It all belongs to God. And when we have the opportunity to share it, we should be doing that. So frankly, I think some of the most miserable people are the folks who decide that they want to hoard. They want to keep getting more and more and more, and they want to hoard it, and they want to compare themselves to others who don't have as much, and so forth and so on. When really, there's so much joy in giving it away and in helping others. And they miss that. They miss that. They don't know why they're so miserable. They're miserable because they're always comparing themselves, and they're always in competition, and they're always trying to get more or do more or whatever. And they haven't learned the joy of giving. Giving can be and is one of the most rewarding things that anyone can ever do. And giving is a part of loving. And God, so loved us unconditionally that he was willing to do the unthinkable. But giving was a part of that. And there's a lot of peace, there's a lot of joy in the acts of love, which include giving.
Well said. What does it, and this is the final question. What does it mean to you to the Jenkins Horn family celebration and the way it's extended to others? What is that celebration or that time, that engagement? What does that mean to you?
This is an opportunity for people to relax, to rest, to enjoy each other's company, to express appreciation to God and to each other, and to celebrate all of the blessings that we've had, and we've all enjoyed blessings. And so rather than lamenting all the things that could have gone differently or that we think went wrong, this is an opportunity to rest, relax, enjoy, and appreciate. And so we've always operated it. I mean, there are no command performances. If you want to just relax and enjoy yourself on a walk, do that. Okay. Nothing is mandatory. We hope that there will be enough things that will be of interest and that you will take advantage of the opportunity to visit and share time with each other. But we realize that everybody is in a different season in their life. Everybody is dealing with a different set of trajectories in their life, that not everybody's in the same place. Not only are they not in the same season, but they may not, even if they're in the same season, they may be in a different point in their life. There are things going on. And yet what we say is, let's come together, and if possible, let's have meals together. Let's do some other things together. But none of this is mandatory. None of this is required. And we want you to know that we appreciate you, and please appreciate others, be respectful of the staff, and, we always do it this way. If you got complaints, bring them to me. If you got compliments, take them to my wife, Anita, okay? Because she's the one that toils over this and plans it and makes sure everybody's got arrangements and all that. But be respectful of everyone. Take your compliments to Anita and bring your complaints to me.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for, just sharing your story, and that your insights are, I think, will be useful and appreciated by many others. So I appreciate your time.